Well, my guests are Pastor Gerald Bargaineer II and his wife Dominique Bargaineer. Pastor G and Dominique, thank you both for being with me today and welcome to the program.
Thank you for having us. Really
Thank
appreciate
you.
it.
Well, I invited you both to be on the show today because Halloween is next week. And well, what are your beliefs and thoughts about Halloween in general? And what would you just want young people to know as Halloween is coming up next week?
It's a holiday that a lot of people, they celebrate. They think it's a lot of fun, a lot of games. But if you do the research and you go deeper into it, you'll find out that its origins weren't really started in a godly fashion at all.
Not at all.
And then it's actually evident when you're walking out on the streets. You look at the kids, you look at how they're dressed. You got witches, you have warlocks, you have ghouls, you have dead people, you got knives in somebody's head. And, all of these things that they don't reflect godly. And last time I checked, the only time that you're looking at a skeleton is when something is dead.
Yeah.
And so it's constantly reflecting death no matter what you're doing in there. I mean, now granted, it might be covered with nice, sweet nothings, I guess you will call it, where you have candy and games and everybody just has fun. But this is a time of year where a lot of people seem to want to expose themselves to fear and say and agree that it's fun. It's just something to do. And that actually is a problem. 1 Timothy or 2 Timothy chapter 1 verse 7 says, "For God has not given us a spirit of fear, but a power, love, and a sound mind." So if God didn't give us a spirit of fear, who gave it to us?
Yeah.
It didn't come from us.
Didn't come from God. So you make a great point. The whole spirit behind Halloween is fear, and it has pagan roots. I did a little bit of research, and trick or treat, even the sweets that you mentioned that we give out on Halloween, is actually the origins of that is giving sweets to appease the wandering evil spirits. So if we give them something sweet to eat, they'll leave us alone.
Right.
Yeah.
So there, even the scary costumes, people would dress up to frighten away the evil roaming spirits. So the origins of the holiday are very pagan and satanic, and we've embraced it for some reason.
Right.
Someone just gave me a statistic that more lights and decorations are sold now for Halloween than even Christmas.
Wow,
And
so
I know,
that's new.
Yeah, in my neighborhood, people have cemeteries in their front yards, and like you
Yeah.
said, witches and skeletons, and so it's celebrating fear. So you make a great point. That's really not of God.
Well, I think one of the main things, too, that people tend to overlook, especially during the season, is that there's so much coded, I guess you could say, imagery, and they make it very appealing to kids and youth, and they want to be different. They want to dress up during the season, and, they make different costumes like angel costumes and bumblebee costumes, and it makes it more appealing because they don't have to be something dead necessarily. However, if you're still dressing up in trick-or-treating, you're still participating in something that is not godly, and its origin is something darker and deeper than what it's made out to really be.
Right, even
So,
when it's masked and hidden by a cute little costume.
Yeah, definitely.
I wanted to add one more thing that a lot of people don't know, that at the time when the Celtics and the Druids, when they used to celebrate this day and they would dress up like that, the biggest deal was to trick the demons as if they didn't know that they were actually one of the demons roaming the streets with them, so they didn't get caught, they didn't get got or whatever it is. It's nonsense in its thinking, but it's amazing how we have incorporated that, and in America we've said that it's acceptable. Even more, to show you the roots of how evil it is, I'm from Detroit, and in Detroit, the day before, we had a night, and the night was called Devil's Night. And on this night, this was the night where you did any and everything bad to a person that you really did not like. So it went so extreme as to, and you can do the research, burning houses,
Yeah.
eggs on windows, and toilet paper, and milk on cars. And if you put milk on paint, it's going to damage the paint, and just various other things, just out of pure hatred. And it definitely wasn't reflecting the fruits of the Spirit at all. It wasn't reflecting anything godly. And each night thereafterwards, it was still the same thing, where they would still do things that were demonic in nature. Look at the movies. I know as a child, I used to be terrified of Freddy Krueger. I used to be terrified of Jason or whatever other, characters that were out there. But at this time, it was the popular thing to do, to watch this kind of stuff. And what you're doing, though, at this time is you're opening the door for Satan to come into your life and wreak havoc by introducing yourself to those kind of things. Fear is the very tool that Satan will use to have and take access of your life. He's going to use that.
Yes.
Yet at the same time, faith and love is where God comes in. And if it's not reflecting faith, it's not reflecting love, if it's not reflecting anything of the fruits of the Spirit, it's reflecting Satan. I'm sorry. And you're going to get destroyed.
Right,
like
right. So what do you tell the teen who's getting pressured? A younger kid, sure, you just tell them stay home, you're not participating. But our teenagers, we give them a little bit more independence, and we let them go out with their friends and their peers. What do you tell the teen who's getting pressured to participate in Halloween activities? Perhaps they don't really want to, but that's what their peer group is doing. How can young people stand up to that pressure and resist the lure of the culture on a holiday like this?
Well, I first want to say that, it takes a stronger man or a woman to be a leader as opposed to being a follower. And if you are out there and friends are trying to introduce certain things to you, you can choose to remove yourself out of that situation should you encounter it. God said, I won't allow a temptation to come to you that you can't bear, or that there will not be a way of escape. So you have the choice at that point to either say, you know what, I'm okay, or no, I don't want to watch that, or etc. There was a time as a young man, I tried to be, cool, and there was this young lady that I really liked a lot. And one day she said, hey, we're just going to watch a certain movie about exorcism. I'm not going to name it, know. And I started watching the movie. And after a while, I felt the Holy Spirit say to me very clearly, Gerald, get up and leave right now. And I watched the movie as it started to get more and more and more and more demonic. And these things are basically introducing curses into your life. You don't even realize it. So beyond all of the peer pressure point, I would, charge some of our youth to just think about the consequences. And some of us don't really know what the consequences are. A lot of us do things because, we don't really want to know the consequences. But, each and every one of our decisions, there, for each action, there's an equal reaction. So you're going to get some type of consequences. And if you choose positively, and if you trust God to lead you, regardless of what people say, you'll look back and you're blessed, and they are still living a life in curses, and that's not so good.
Yes.
So that would be some of the encouragement.
So one way to encourage a young person listening is one thing you said is it's harder to be a leader than a follower. It takes more strength. So speaking that into their lives, maybe they've never heard that put that way before.
Right.
That, wow, if I stand up and do something different from the crowd, wow, that makes me strong instead of whatever my peers might call me names and put me down. So that's just a new way of looking at it.
Exactly.
I think for them too, sometimes I know for me when I was growing up, I definitely had the leader inside of me, but I was very timid and shy, and I didn't want to be looked down upon by my peers. And one of the things that I had to realize growing up is that there's somebody still right next to me, in a group of people that could be wanting to make the decision to stand out from the crowd and do something, but they have the fear that causes them not to do so. And if I just abide by what God is telling me to do and just holding firm to that, somebody else is going to catch on, and they're going to be like, you know what, you're right. That's kind of crazy. I don't want to participate in that either. So I've realized that sometimes you just have to take the chance and build up the courage inside of you. And I would encourage all of the youth and young adults, even now, it just seems like it's getting harder as the years go by. There's a lot of things going on, especially with the community, and it just seems like there's a lot that's just everything's okay. There's no boundaries. Anything goes, exactly. And because of that, people are afraid to just stand firm on the truth. Everybody wants to be lukewarm, and there is no hot and there is no cold. And so I think as a community, what we have to do, and even for the parents, encouraging their children to stand firm on their faith and what they believe in, And if they have questions, to ask them, because if you don't ask questions, then they go unanswered. And because they're unanswered, you just kind of fall into the blend of life and what the rest of society is doing instead of what you know is true to do. So.
Right. Good advice. Good advice. So as the youth are hearing this message of, okay, I can stand on my own, and maybe me taking a stand might encourage someone else who wants to also, who's just afraid, and to know I can be a leader just in that small instance with one other person. I can help them maybe make a different choice. But some kids, I think, may be hearing you on the radio right now and saying, yeah, that's nice, but those Christians are kind of boring. Well, how would you respond to that? Many people might believe that. Adults my age, certainly, but teenagers as well who might be listening. How do you guys make following Christ appealing to the youth and young adults? Because you all look like you're having a grand old time.
Come see me.
Yeah, really, if you don't know Pastor G, you should get to know him.
You'll find out real quick that Christianity is not boring. One of the things that I don't waste my time doing is trying to put on a front for somebody. And just for those who don't know, I'm not sitting in this office right now in a suit just because I'm a pastor. I'm in jeans, Timberlands, untied, and a T-shirt and some dog tags that say I can do all things through Christ who strengthens me. And that's how I go to church every day.
And we'll post a picture of him on Facebook
so you can
see he's telling the truth.
I mean, but you know what? There is this whole stigma that Christians have to be a certain way. Now, the Bible is your guiding force for how you should live life, okay? And yeah, it can be difficult at times, but it takes the leader to actually be able to stand against the things of the world. And some people will tell you that you're not cool, that you're lame, et cetera, et cetera. A lot of those guys that told me those things back home in Detroit are still in the same place. They haven't changed. They haven't grown. Yet I still live now a life that's blessed and full of God, with a beautiful wife.
Yes, and we'll have her picture on Facebook too, yes, so we know you're not lying.
And young guys, she is taken, so no thank you. But I can tell you that, it may seem difficult at times, and I'm not telling you to just totally shun everybody and be done with it. I'm not telling you to become a lame or become L7 square. I'm not trying to tell you to just drop everything. What I am trying to tell you is do everything with God guiding you first. And that can be as simple as God saying, you know what, they're getting ready to go see that movie. I don't want you to go see that movie. You should go see something else. And if they're really your friends, they're going to love you anyways. They're going to love you regardless of your decisions, your choices. They're going to love you anyways, and they will respect you. I have friends now, those guys that are in Detroit, even after me not deciding to, smoke weed after I've done it at one point in time, saying I'm not going to do it again. When I make the changes and I said I won't drink or said I won't go to certain things or do certain things, when I made those decisions, even though they were frustrated with me at first, after a while, it became a standard where they said, okay, well, I might as well not even ask him to do a certain thing or another, knowing that it's against God. And they were aware of God through my actions. And so your friends, some of them don't even know God. Some of them don't even know what God looks like. Or some of them have this painted picture of what Christianity looks like, and they call it a religion, and they don't think of it as a relationship. And consequently, they wholeheartedly reject the whole ideal of living in a Christian life. But you can very well be the example, the first Bible that they will ever read just by your lifestyle.
Yeah.
And you know what? I can tell you that there's so many rewards that come with that, just from just setting the example. So even in a situation like this, you decide, I don't really want to participate in Halloween this year. I know the roots. I know it has ties with sorcery. I know it has ties with divination. I know it has ties with necromancy. I know, and some of these terms I might be using and you might not be familiar with, but if you play games like World of Warcraft or any other type of sorcery games, you know exactly what I'm saying. And you say, I don't want to be associated with those things anymore because God said it's not good for me. God said that it'll bring about my destruction. God said that it will open the doors for Satan to put curses on my life. So because of that, I'm going to stand anyways. And if you decide to do that, God will bless you. And then God, in blessing you, will also put your life up so that others can receive some type of blessing through that as well. And now I have friends, those same friends, they want to change their life now.
Amen.
And so they come to me for advice. They talk to me and they say, Gerald, I have questions about this, that, or the other. And I might not have all of the answers. I'm not perfect. Yes, I'm a pastor, whatever. At the end of the day, I don't know everything, but I do know enough that can guide them to Christ. And your life will be able to do the exact same thing should you just stand.
Amen. Amen. How about you,
Definitely.
Dominique? How do you respond to that? Being a Christian's boring. You're a young woman. What do you say to that?
I think one of the things that came to mind thinking about that question is that purity is something that people look down upon. And when I say purity, I'm talking about, keeping yourself away from ungodly things, impure things, demonic, witchcraft, anything of the such. And people want to be cool and they want to be rebellious. And rather than being rebellious to God, why not be rebellious to the world and follow God through what you're doing in your life? My whole life has been a roller coaster of emotions. And for me, myself, I'm a very visual person. I was spiritually attacked all throughout childhood, and I had a lot of different dreams of scary things and wasn't aware of what it was exactly. And once I really started to learn about God and even reading Revelation, people overlook a whole lot in the Bible, and Revelation is one of the books that really get down to the nitty-gritty about the battle between good and evil. And it's in the Word, and we should follow those things and understand what side we're on. I think it's really just about choosing what side we want to be on, standing firm in that, and realizing that you can have fun through purity and being a follower of Christ. It's something where, for me, I get excited about Jesus. My whole life is Jesus. That's all I do. I live, breathe, eat, drink Jesus. And
Amen.
It's not because somebody's telling me to do so. It's because it's from my heart.
Amen.
And I think one of the main things that the reason why I do so is because of the fact that I can trust that he's got my back. I know that I've done a lot of the world stuff. It's not fun. I wake up the next morning tormented, tired, under attack. And I realize that under God's covering, I have pretty much the most peace I've ever had and experienced.
Amen. Amen. And I think about Jesus is the life of the party.
Yeah.
He was invited to weddings. He was invited,
Right.
To dinner parties. He turned the water into wine, to keep the
This is
party
my
going.
homeboy.
So if we're to look at him as our example, as our
Yeah.
model, and he was at parties. He people wanted him there. You think
Exactly.
about that. His
Yep.
first public miracle. I'm not endorsing go out and drink a bunch of wine, but I'm just using that as a point.
Right.
He was invited to the wedding, and he thought, we need to keep the party going.
Yeah, exactly.
Amen.
Can you tell them real quick, Dominique, how old you are so they'll know?
Oh, I'm 24, y'all.
And she's fly. She doesn't look
That girl
boring.
is
She doesn't look
fly.
like an old maid,
And I can tell you, my club is the church and not the church downtown. That's an actual club. My club is the church where I praise God and I worship him and give him all the
Amen.
glory.
Amen. Yeah, our church is a dancing church.
Yes,
when
it
we're
is.
worshiping, I think we broke out spontaneously in the electric slide or something.
Yeah.
Yeah.
One
In
worship
the middle of
service I was
praise and
at,
worship.
yes.
That was
So
fun.
you can have fun. You can dance. It's a relationship with Jesus. You used that term earlier. It's not about religion.
That's right.
It's about relationship
That's right.
and the freedom of loving the Lord and Him loving us back.
That's right.
Amen. Well, and you've alluded to this already, Pastor G. You haven't always been a pastor. You have your own personal testimony, and Dominique, even though you're a pastor's daughter and now married to a pastor, you've just shared your testimony as well. So, any young adults, young people listening, you can make mistakes. You can be a part of the world, and you can do, the things that teenagers often do, and there's no condemnation.
Right, right. And I want to say that obedience is hard sometimes, okay? I know how hard it can be. I know that you have your own needs, things that you think you need to satisfy. And you might not always get it right every time. Well, I think Jesus knew that. And there's no think about it. I'm being sarcastic. Jesus knew that already, and that's why he died on the cross for every single one of your sins, past, present, and future. Now, that doesn't give you an excuse to say, Jesus died for my sins, so I'm going to the club and forget y'all, and then I'm going to do what I want. No, that's not what he's saying. But, and the reason why I say obedience pays off is because I have, in my life, even in the hard times, I was still able to hear God, even in those times where I didn't really want to hear God. And sometimes I tried to ignore him, and sometimes I was successful. But most of the time, I heard God. Mm-hmm. I heard what he was saying about my life. And because of it, I made sure that I applied myself. And in it, I got everything that God had for me and still more coming. Mm-hmm. So.
Mm-hmm. Amen. Amen. He promises us an abundant life if we'll follow him.
Yeah. Definitely.
Pastor G, Dominique, thank you so much for being on the show today.
Thank you.
Thank you.
It's been awesome to have you. I'd love to have you back again in the very near future.